Deportiva y con swing.
Deportiva y con swing.
La factoría del deporte desde New York para ti. Es una máquina.
Es una máquina
Pensada para ti.
pensada para ti. Número uno en las redes, dale like y compartir.
Con informaciones importantes siempre frescas.
Y con entrevistas que te ponen de cabeza.
Lo mejor del deporte lo encontrarás aquí.
Búscale en las redes, dale like y compartir.
Suscríbete,
Ay sí,
infórmate.
ok. Dale a la campana para que te llegue.
The DH, just how do you think your lineup will function, or what are some of the challenges that you'll have to work through? And I guess specifically too, just with the bench, and maybe if some of these starters don't go long, you're going to have a lot of pinch hit opportunities as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, it's a different league, you know, different responsibilities for different people. You know, my outfield are going to be the best that I can come up with that day. It's a bit of a disadvantage that our guys can't really, we're working on it now, trying to get on the field for a few minutes, because a lot of these guys have never played here, and somebody informed me the last time he played here was 2017, I guess it was, and that's a long time ago to not be familiar with the, you know, with the field, with the dimensions and the caroms and the corners. So we're going to try to get out there and learn the best we can, and you know, that's why we wanted to, you know, to carry Marwin to give us an additional, the second part of your question, an additional guys off the bench or potential double switches, even though there's not a bunch of guys that you want to double switch with to get out of your lineup. So you know, it does present some challenges, but you know, we think we have some guys that are ready for it.
Chandler on your right.
Dusty, I want to take you back to the trade deadline. When Straw got traded for Maton, that was a move that surprised a lot of us. I guess now looking back, and given how well Maton has pitched in the playoffs for you, how do you evaluate that deal, and how do you evaluate just the job James did addressing your bullpen at the deadline?
Yeah, I'll take the second part. James did a great job in addressing, you know, trying to shore up our bullpen. I mean, everybody was trying to get me to say my bullpen was bad, and I couldn't say that with the guys, you know, on the team. You don't talk down on your guys, and but our bullpen did need, you know, some addressing. You know, the straw from Maton wasn't a popular move, wasn't popular in the city or popular on the team, but you know, sometimes moves work out, you know, and it still takes time. I think you still need to give things time before you see, you know, if the move was right in the long run. And it's supposed to be a trade that's good for both. And so far, it's been good for Cleveland to have Straw, and it's been good for us, you know, the way Maton, you know, has responded. I mean, I was traded from the Braves to the Dodgers in a big blockbuster trade, and it was like the most unpopular trade of all time until in L.A. for a year. And then the next year, like I said, I like to kind of wait the next year. Then I hit 30 home runs, and I was on the all-Dodger team. I went from the all-hated team to the all-Dodger team. So sometimes you have to wait.
Go to Brian in the fourth row.
Dusty, I'd like to go back to 1967, 68. This is absolute full circle for you. I mean, you started.
How do you know I'm gonna remember that?
You started your career here, obviously, in a different part of Atlanta. Mm-hmm. What is it, and I'm sure you can answer this for an hour, but I mean, what is it like to be back in this city, in this region, and have a shot for, you know, be managing a World Series team in the city of Atlanta?
Well, you've heard me say sometimes it's already written, and this is a prime example. I mean, what are the chances of me being back here on the Houston Astros, where I got my first hit, back in Atlanta? You know, I mean, back when I was a kid, like you said, when I came by, I guess it's Georgia State Field now. You know, every time I used to come by there, going to the hotel, I would think of, you always think about, you know, it's like going back by your high school or your college. If you pass it all the time, you think about different memories that you had, different people that I know in town, different people, I mean, real good friends of mine. I had a road buddy named Michael that I played ball with the Braves, and I thought about him. He died this summer of COVID, and usually when I'd come here, I'd see him. You know what I mean? And so, you know, Gary Matthews is here. I mean, a lot of my, you know, partners are here. And, you know, naturally I thought about Hank, and I talked to Hank Jr. He called me today. Mike Cameron called me. He saw our bus come by. He wanted to know, was that our bus? Saw the police escort. So you just think about, you know, all the things that transpired, you know, in your life here. And this is kind of where I grew up in my professional career.
Go to Ron in the 4th row.
Having lived with the DH for most of the last 2 years in games, if you lose double switches, would you miss it in the future?
Yes.
Why?
Why? Well, because it's somebody's phone, not mine. Well, that's kind of, you know, how I was raised in my managerial career and raised National League style of baseball. You know, I mean, there's strategy on both sides, but there's more, I think, on, you know, with the no DH, with the pitcher hitting, you know, I mean, and some of the guys don't miss it, some pitchers, and there are some pitchers that absolutely miss it, you know, like Greinke. I mean, you know, he's dying to hit, you know, like a young man pitched last night. I'm sure, you know, he would miss it. So I just hope that, I mean, once it ever changes to no DH, then it'll probably never change back, and that's something that would sadden me.
Mark?
Dusty, when you think of Hank, what memories are you thinking about, and how much would he enjoy this, and what kind of conversations would you guys have had here during the World Series?
Well, you know, he'd definitely enjoy this. You know, he would call me, and then first thing he would do, call me Mr. Dusty Baker, and then he'd start laughing. And, you know, I don't know the conversations we'd had. We probably wouldn't have had much about baseball. He, you know, first thing he does, he asked me about my mother. That's the first thing that he asked me, how's your mom doing? You know, because like I said, he promised my mom, you know, when I was 18 years old. And then I'd ask how Dorinda and Hanky and Larry and Gail are doing. And then, you know, we'd talk about getting some food probably someplace. And then he'd ask me how his Hank Aaron wine is doing, you know. So we'd have a lot to talk about. And, you know, just make conversation. Mostly we and ask about my son always. That's his main man, my son. And I got a picture on my wall that we had in Cincinnati at the Freedom Games when my son might have been 10, 12 at the national anthem. And there, he's looking down at my son's looking up at him. And then I got my hand over my heart. So, you know, they're partners.
Go to Mark right up front.
Dusty, I think Marwin is the only player on either team who's faced the starter that you guys are going to play tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Do you think it gives the pitcher an advantage when they're facing a lineup full of guys who have never seen them in person before?
Yes.
Why do you think that's such an advantage for the pitcher?
Well, because he's throwing the ball where he wants to. He has a catcher behind him, ambushing him. He got 9 guys out in the field. If you do hit it right, I mean, 7 guys behind him. I mean, that's an advantage from the get-go. And if you've never seen him, you can watch film all you want to, but it doesn't until you see his release point. You see him on the mound. You know, I always just thought it was easier for you to be throwing a ball where you want to throw it to who you want to throw to, and if a guy's never seen you. I mean, I've seen that a bunch of times. But Hank Aaron used to say, if you never face a pitcher, you initiate him right away, and then kind of kill his spirit. So hopefully we can initiate him.
My other question for you is, what is it about Michael Brantley that makes him sort of thrive in these big games like this?
He has tremendous balance, and he has, you know, good eyes. You know, he can see, and he uses the whole field. You know, there's no one way to pitch him. There's no one way to play him.
Go to Marley and then Brian.
Dusty, after you guys lost game one, you said it specifically. You said this is a 7-game series. Where do you stand on the overreaction that can happen after the result of an individual game in the playoffs, and how quote unquote momentum turns?
Well, I think human nature is to overreact. Personally, it's sort of short-sighted. You just see the feeling that you have at the moment, and I mean right now. So, what is it? Best 3 out of 5 now. It went from best 4 out of 7 now it's best 3 out of 5, and that's how you got to look at it. Whether you lose 3, it's still you got to win 4. I mean, you've seen. I never forget that. Like last year, we lost 3, and damn near could have won 4. And then I remember the Yankees in Boston, and they won 4. So you got to get to one at a time.
Brian and then Mark Berman.
How well equipped do you think Garcia is, batting and prepared? I guess maybe Greinke in Game 4 and whoever starts in Game 5. Could that be a disadvantage for those guys not having done it as much as the Braves starters?
Well, it could be a disadvantage if the other guy can hit. If the other guy can't hit, there's no advantage at all. You know what I mean? And just because they've done it, then I mean they can do it. And because Luis hasn't done it, then I mean he can't do it, And I think you'll be surprised.
Go to Mark Berman over here. Up front.
Dusty, one non-World Series question. Zach Greinke, Martin Maldonado, Yuli, Carlos, and Kyle are all finalists for Gold Glove Awards. Want to get some thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, like I said, that's the work part of the game, the fielding part. You got to take pride in. I mean, the only way to get better and to stay good at it is to work. You have to continue to work, and the proudest team that I had it was in '93. We had 4 Gold Gloves and potentially could have 4 here. But I also had a Will Clark who already had one, Darren Lewis who's going to get one, Wes Clayton that was about to get one, Willie McGee who had one already. So, you got to catch the ball. I mean, one of the proudest things it happened in my career is to get a Golden Glove. Because, see, it was back in our day, the Golden Glove was given to the top 3 outfielders, and most time they were center fielders. Now they give the Golden Glove to each position. But, hey, to get a gold is to get gold. And Gary Pettis got, how many is he at, 5? Oof.
Go to Danielle in the third row.
Luis Garcia was bumping like 97 in Game 6 against the Red Sox. Do you think that's something that's sustainable, or is that just a result of the abbreviated outing in his first time out?
I don't know. I mean, I hope so. More than 97, I hope it's well located 90-something, because 97, walking people and not throwing strikes is no good, but he had 97, 96 in the strike zone. And so I'm just hoping that, he's found his rhythm to stay in the strike zone.
The third row on your left, Dusty.
Yes.
When you look at how well Christian Javier has been pitching in the postseason, what do you think is the biggest key to this success?
He works at it. I mean, he really works at it. And there was about a month there he was out of sync, and so he went back to work. And I got to give Strami and Miller and Murph a lot of credit for, helping him get back on sync, while without overworking him and really keeping him ready for us to try to win games too. And he could have squawked while he was going from being one of our top relievers, young relievers, to the bullpen, but he embraced it and then went to work on it.
Brian in the fourth row.
Dusty, how would you, if you were to look back, how would you describe yourself during those early years with the Braves? You've mentioned several times that you were kind of everyone changes. You were a different person back then. How would you describe yourself?
I was the same person. I was just wild. You know what I'm saying? I mean, how many guys, 19, 20 years, 21 years old, you know, with a little money in your pocket, a pretty car, and single, it wouldn't have been kind of wild. You know what I mean? I mean, I believe in having fun, but I also believed in working towards my goal because I had to help support my family. You know, so I was never too wild, but I'd like to have a good time, and I always had Hank Aaron tell me to go to bed and go to church, and you know, just and my roommate Ralph, you know, he'd make me go to church, and like I said, it was I don't know, I was focused, but yeah, I knew how to, and I believed in having a good time at the same time.
Bob standing on the right, Dusty.
Hey, Dusty, now that Darren is older, what's it like for you to have him around? Do you talk much about the game either beforehand or afterwards?
Sometimes, you know, I mean, he knows baseball. I got to give it to my son. I mean, he really paid attention. I mean, he'll tell me, like, the key to this game was the defensive play by Albies the other night, or just small thing with bases loaded, or, you know, the untimely walk or the error. And, you know, I mean, he tells me that he's more nervous during our games than he is in his own, and I'm more nervous at his game than I am at our own, you know. So, you know, he loves baseball. I mean, see, I couldn't decide at his age which sport I liked the best or what I wanted to do, but at 15, he's playing basketball, football, baseball. He said, I want to play baseball. So, yeah, he'll be in later tonight.
I mean, I know his career hasn't started yet, but could you see him being a lifer in baseball like you?
I don't know. I don't really like that term lifer. I mean, I'm in baseball, but I got other things that I'm doing as well as baseball. And so man does what he has to do to what he's good at and to feed his family and his mom and dad over a long period of time. You know what I mean? So my dad taught me that man has to do what a man got to do. You guys ever heard that before?
Do two more, Barry and then Chandler.
Hey, Dusty.
Hey, Barry.
So back to your point about the individual games of a series, it seems like this year, more than any, each game is a self-contained unit. It's like game 1 and 2 really had no semblance to each other.
Mm-hmm.
They were mirror images. There's no momentum. There's just, you know, the pitching is short in a lot of cases. Guys, you know, are down starters. Do you find it that there's an all-in approach to winning every game and worry about the next game the next day? What's your take on it?
Yeah, it's gotten more and more with that recently. You know, guys have a shorter leash on everybody. They're pinch hitting more. Yeah, and I mean, we have a more today's society, I think. You know what I mean? Where you're worried less about tomorrow. I mean, I believe in today, living for today, but I also believe in preparing for tomorrow. Because if not, you just go spend up your whole paycheck today and then don't worry about paying bills on the next day. So you got to kind of, you know, live for today, but you also try to prepare for tomorrow. There's some guys that they saved over there that they could have brought in and try to save that game, you know. And we have some guys over here that I could have brought in that didn't really need to. You're trying to hedge on going through your whole bullpen for tomorrow.
Finish up with Chandler.
I hope that answered your question, man. Well, your question was so heavy, as I had to, like, using them big words, I had to, like, think about it, man. I know.
Dusty, is Greinke your game 4 starter, or is Greinke your game 4 starter, or are you guys still finalizing that?
Yeah, we're still finalizing that.
Hay un palo, hay carrera, la máquina deportiva.